You know, one of the greatest misunderstandings human beings carry almost as invisibly as the air around them is this curious belief that the world is somehow theirs. Their achievements, their loved ones, their possessions, their very lives. And because we imagine these things belong to us, we cling to them with a ferocity so tight that, ironically, we lose the very experience of them while they are here. Now, you may ask, what do I mean when I say that what you fear losing was never yours to keep? Well, imagine for a moment that you are sitting beside a river. The water flows effortlessly, slipping past your fingers before you even know you're reaching for it. You see a beautiful leaf drifting along the surface just out of reach, just close enough to tempt you. And something inside you says, ah, that leaf is mine. I must have it. But the moment you grasp for it, the river moves it on. The river was never designed to hold its gifts still, and neither is life. Everything that comes into your experience, every friend, every moment, every breath is very much like that leaf. Appearing for a while, gliding quietly through your awareness, and then drifting on. Not because life is cruel, or because you're unworthy, but simply because that is the nature of the river. You see, we suffer most not because life is impermanent, but because we imagine it should be otherwise. Most humans learn, very early on, to behave as if the world is a giant warehouse filled with items they get to catalog and secure in a private vault. A vault, labeled me and mine, but reality, if you pay close attention, behaves nothing like a warehouse. It behaves more like a dance in which no one leads for too long, and no one follows forever. Yet we walk around trying desperately to pin the dancer to the floor. We say, this person is my partner. This home is my home. This idea is my idea. This identity is who I am. And in the same breath, we fear the moment it might slip through our fingers. So let me tell you a little secret, whispered softly by sages poets, and perhaps even by your own heart on quiet nights. You only fear losing what you believe you possess. And possession, in the psychological sense, is nothing more than a very persistent illusion. Take a tree, for example. You may plant it in your yard. You may water it, nurture it, speak to it, even give it a name. But the tree does not grow for you. It does not belong to you. It simply grows. It reaches for the sun, drinks from the rain, dances in the wind. And one day, if a storm chooses to knock it down, it goes not because something has been stolen from you, but because the tree was part of a wider play that was never yours to direct. And strangely enough, the moment you stop insisting that the tree is yours, you begin to appreciate it more deeply. You notice its texture, its shade, its quiet companionship. You enjoy it because it is, not because it contributes to your personal inventory. This is the profound shift. When you stop trying to own life, you begin to live it. Consider also relationships. Human beings cling to each other not because they love, but because they're afraid. Afraid of loss, afraid of change. Afraid of the openness that true connection requires. A person begins to think, my partner must stay. My friend must remain unchanged. My children must grow as I imagine. My parents must never leave me. And then, when the river inevitably moves on, they cry out, why is the world doing this to me? But the world isn't doing anything. The world is simply flowing. The tragedy arises from believing you were ever standing on solid ground. The curious thing is this. When you truly love someone, you do not insist on keeping them. You simply experience them. You allow them to be who they are, and you allow yourself to be who you are. And if one day the dance changes, you bow grateful for the time you shared. Possession is not love. Fear is not love. Control is not love. Love is the courage to participate in the impermanence of things. Let me share something else. That fear you feel, the fear of losing something precious, is not a sign that you are broken or weak. It is a sign that you are human. You were raised in a society that teaches you to accumulate worth through attachments, objects, people, accomplishments, identities. But a life defined by possession is like trying to build a home out of clouds. No matter how hard you try, they slip through your fingers. Now don't misunderstand me. I am not saying you should not care about life. Quite the opposite. I am saying you should care so deeply, so freely, that your caring does not depend on ownership. That your joy is not based on capturing moments, but on experiencing them. After all, a sunset is never more beautiful than when you accept it will soon be gone. Sit with that for a moment. The beauty of life arises because it is fleeting. Its sweetness comes from its transience, not despite it. Think of music. If you tried to hold the notes still, to trap them in the air so you could replay the same moment over and over, the song would die instantly. A single frozen note is not music. Music requires flow, change, departure. It requires endings. You savor the melody not because it lasts forever, but because each note leads effortlessly into the next stand, then disappears. Life is exactly like that. The people you meet, the moments you cherish, the identities you adopt, they are notes in the great symphony of your existence. And the moment you try to make any one of them permanent, you step out of rhythm. You see, what you fear losing was never yours to keep. Not because life is cruel, but because life is musical. Everything plays its part and then fades. Everything enters and leaves at the right time. And you, too, are part of this exquisite unfolding. Once you see this clearly, truly, not intellectually but experientially, you begin to relax. You stop clutching at things the way a drowning man clutches at air. You feel yourself soften, open. You begin to trust the movement of life, the way a leaf trusts the river. And then something miraculous happens. You discover that what you tried to own was never the source of your security. Your security was always in your ability to dance with the moment. This is the art of letting go. Not pushing life away, not rejecting it, but allowing it to move as it must. And when it moves on, you bow. And when something new arises, you bow again. It is all part of the same dance. And perhaps this is where the real mystery begins. Once you stop treating every experience as something to guard, protect, label, and store away, you begin to sense a curious freedom rising within you. A freedom that was there all along, but buried beneath layers of imaginary ownership. You see, human beings walk around with the constant tension of someone holding a fragile object they terrified of dropping. They hold their relationships like that, their identities like that, their ambitions like that. Even their failures, oddly enough, are clutched with the same desperate grip. But imagine, for a moment, what it would feel like to set that fragile object down. Imagine discovering that you were the one who became fragile by trying to protect it. This is what I mean when I say that what you fear losing was never yours to keep. Not because you don't deserve beautiful things, but because beautiful things become painful only when you insist on trying to freeze them in time. Most people believe they are a fixed thing, an entity carved in stone, defined by their past, by their successes, by their traumas, by the opinions of others. They very proudly announce, "This is who I am." But what is this self? Really? But a story is not a being. It is a narrative, a sequence of memories that you string together to create the illusion of continuity. Look closely, and you'll see that you are not a fixed thing, but a process, a happening, a verb disguised as a noun. You are more like a flame than a stone. Trying to keep yourself is like trying to keep a fire from dancing, because change threatens what you believe you are. Love threatens what you believe you are. When people fear losing something, what they are actually afraid of is losing a part of their identity, a role, a space. This is why letting go is not a loss, but a return. Imagine standing on the seashore, holding a handful of sand. If you clench harder, you lose even more. Life behaves exactly like that. The more open you become, the longer life lingers. It is participation without possession. Now, some people hear this and respond, but if I stop holding on, won't I lose everything? You were never holding anything to begin with. What you call losing is simply the movement of life. What you call keeping is simply the illusion of control. No one truly holds their partner, or their youth, or their fortune, or their status, or their health, or even their body. You are in a constant state of exchange with the world. Everything you touch, everything you love, everything you fear losing, is part of this same rhythm. Now, let's speak honestly about death, because it is the great teacher of this principle. People fear death not because they don't understand it, but because they imagine they own their life. They walk around thinking, this life is mine, this body is mine, these years are mine. And so death feels like theft. You did not create yourself. You did not sustain your own heartbeat or orchestrate the billions of microscopic miracles happening in your cells each moment. Your life is something being done through you, not by you. And just as music requires silence to exist, life requires death to be meaningful. If you lived forever in your present form, you would be trapped in a kind of cosmic stagnation, like a single note held infinitely long. Beautiful for a moment, then torturous, then meaningless. It is because things end that we love them. It is because people change that we get to meet them anew. It is because moments fade that we savor them. We fear losing what was never ours to keep, because we have forgotten how to dance with impermanence. Children understand this naturally. Watch a child build a sandcastle. They pour their entire being into it, carefully sculpting towers, carving windows, decorating the walls with shells. And when the tide comes in and washes the entire thing away, they do not mourn. They laugh, because to them, the wave is part of the game. Somewhere along the line, adults forget this. They begin to take the sandcastle personally. They think the tide is ruining something, but the tide is not an intruder, is a collaborator. Life is always building and dissolving, building and dissolving. You are part of that play. So are the people you love. So are your dreams, your failures, your joys, your identities. The more you allow this movement, the more gracefully you can live. And here, perhaps, is the greatest paradox of all. Now, let us go a little deeper into the very roots of this fear of loss. This trembling sensation we hide beneath our busyness, our plans, our ambitions. For if you look closely, you will notice that the fear of losing things is never truly about the things themselves. It is not the object, the person. The moment we cling to it is the sense of self that we believe is intertwined with them. You fear losing what you believe defines you. That is the quiet truth. A person may think, if I lose this relationship, who will I be? If I lose my job, my status, my image, what remains? If time takes away my youth, my certainty, my strength, what becomes of me? And underlying all of it is the smallest, most frightened voice of all. If everything changes, how can I exist? This is the illusion at the center of human suffering, the belief that you are a fixed thing, a tightly drawn shape that must hold itself together against the winds of life. But you are not fixed. You are not a statue, cold and carved. You are a flame dancing because the air moves. Alive because nothing about you stays still for very long. The self is a process, a happening, a verb, not a noun. But society teaches you to behave as if you were a solid object, a thing that must be preserved, maintained, polished, protected. You are taught to build an identity the way one constructs a wall. And once built, the slightest crack, the slightest tremor, feels like a threat to your very existence. And so you cling. You cling to opinions, because changing them feels like death. You cling to relationships, because their departure feels like disintegration. You cling to possessions, because they offer a temporary illusion of solidity. You cling to routines and beliefs, because they make the world seem less uncertain. Yet, strangely enough, it is the clinging itself that makes life frightening. A person who floats with the river does not fear the current. Only the one who tries to hold the water still feels terror. Let me tell you a small story. There was once a man who found a delicate butterfly resting on his hand. He marveled at its color, its fragility, its quiet presence, and for a moment, he felt a profound joy. But then a thought entered his mind. If this butterfly flies away, this beauty will be gone. I must keep it, so he closed his hand. And the moment he did, the butterfly was lost not because it flew away, but because he held it too tightly. We do this with everything. Our joys, our passions, our relationships, our identities, our very lives. The moment we try to secure something permanently, we destroy the quality that made it precious. You see, the fear of losing something reveals a misunderstanding, the belief that things give you your worth, your meaning, your security. But if anything in the world can be taken from you, can it truly be the foundation of your being? No, because whatever can be taken was never truly you in the first place. This is not a sad truth, it is liberation. Imagine carrying a heavy sack on your back. Inside it are all your fears: fear of losing money, fear of losing reputation, fear of losing love, fear of losing health, fear of losing certainty. And you walk through life bent under this weight. But look inside the sack. You will discover that it is filled entirely with illusions. Shadows you have mistaken for stones. Concepts you have mistaken for truths. Expectations you have mistaken for guarantees. Nothing inside is real. And yet, the weight feels real because you believe in it. Now imagine setting the sack down. Not because you've solved all of life's problems, but because you've realized the problems weren't yours to carry in the first place. What a beautiful lightness that would be. People often ask, but if I stop holding on, won't I lose everything? No, you will not lose everything. You will simply stop trying to freeze what is meant to move. And then, to your amazement, you find that life flows more gracefully than when you tried to control it. You find that relationships breathe more freely when you stop suffocating them with demands. You find that your creativity blossoms when you stop clinging to outcomes. You find that your heart softens when you stop insisting it remain unbroken. Loss is not the enemy. Fear is not the enemy. The enemy is the illusion that you can escape impermanence. Let me offer another metaphor. Life is like playing a musical instrument. You do not hold a note forever. You play it, let it ring, and then release it. And only by releasing it can the next note arise. And you do this again and again, creating a melody that never repeats itself exactly. But imagine a musician who refuses to release a beautiful note because it sounds too lovely to let go. They hold it, trembling, forcing it to continue. Eventually, the note strains, falters, and breaks, and the song your life cannot continue. You see, it is not life that takes things from you. It is life that gives you the next note. Release is what allows the music to happen at all. Let us also speak of death because inevitably, all conversations about loss lead here. Humans fear death because they imagine life as something that can be owned. Something they could keep if only they were careful enough, strong enough, righteous enough. But what you call your life is simply a temporary expression of a much larger process, like a wave rising for a moment before returning to the ocean. The wave does not disappear. It simply stops pretending to be separate. This is the elegant relief at the heart of impermanence. Nothing that is truly you can ever be lost. Nothing that is lost was ever truly you. And when you understand this not as a lofty idea, but as a living experience, you stop resisting the natural unfolding of existence. You stop fighting the seasons of your life. You stop treating change as an enemy. You begin to watch the ebb and flow of everything around you the same way you watch clouds drift across the sky. You begin to live gently. You begin to live fully. And you begin to see that the world was never asking you to hold on. It was asking you to participate. It was asking you to share in the dance, not clutch the dancer. To play the music, not trap the notes. To love the moment, not imprison it. Everything changes. Everything moves. Everything comes and goes. And in this ceaseless movement, there's a deep, abiding peace. Not the peace of possession, but the peace of participation. Now, let us wander a little deeper into this forest of understanding. Because there is something profoundly liberating waiting just beyond the initial clearing. Something many people sense intuitively, but rarely articulate. When you realize that nothing in your life is truly yours, something curious happens. You stop trying to freeze the world, and you start finally participating in it. The tragedy of possession is not merely that it fails, but that it blinds you to the very experience you are trying to preserve. Think of a person at a breathtaking lookout standing before an endless valley, bathed in golden light, and instead of seeing it, they rush desperately to take a photograph. Then they take another, adjusting the angle, changing the exposure, leaning dangerously over the ledge to capture the perfect shot so they can have it forever, and in the frantic act of trying to keep the moment, they do not actually live it. This is what the ego does with life itself. The ego is a collector, a curator of experiences it believes can be safely stored away. It builds museums out of memories and identities. This is who I was at 22. This is who I must be today. This is who others need me to become. And it guards these comics as if exhibits, as if the slightest breeze of change might shatter them. But you are not a museum. You are a continually unfolding process. A wave, not a statue. And waves do not fear the shoreline. To understand that what you fear losing was never yours to keep is to dissolve this curator inside you, the one always polishing old artifacts, always defending psychological borders, always insisting, this is mine, this must stay. But life does not care for walls. It behaves more like the wind flowing where it will, how it will, regardless of what the mind demands. Some people resist this thought. They say, but surely there must be something I can rely on, something permanent I can call my own. Ah, yes. And so they cling to identities. I am this kind of person. I belong to this group. I am defined by this story. But identities shift in the same way clouds shift across the sky. They appear solid only if you do not look too closely. The moment you cling to an identity, you cage yourself. A man who sees himself as strong becomes terrified of vulnerability. A woman who sees herself as good becomes frightened of her own shadow. A person who sees themselves as broken becomes attached to their wounds, because without them, who would they be? Identity is one of the most fragile possessions of all, and yet human beings guard it more fiercely than diamonds. Look peacefully, now, at your own sense of self. Not with judgment, but with curiosity. Notice how your personality has changed over the years, how your dreams, your fears, your opinions, your preferences have shifted like the tides. Which of these then was truly you? Which part was the permanent core you imagine must exist? You may find, if you inquire gently, that the you have been trying so hard to protect is as fluid and ungraspable as a flame. Beautiful, luminous, ever-changing, and utterly The mind tries, of course, to grasp it. But trying to hold your identity still is like trying to hold your breath indefinitely. You can do it, but only at the cost of your own aliveness. Now let us step into another dimension of this principle, the future. Human beings are perpetually anxious about futures. They imagine they must secure futures they believe belong to them. They say, I must make sure nothing goes wrong. I must guarantee that tomorrow is safe, and thus they spend today building fences around a tomorrow they will never actually inhabit. The future is not yours. It never was, it never will be. You cannot lose what does not exist yet, and yet you fear losing it more violently than anything else. Look closely at this paradox. You fear losing something that has not even arrived, and may never arrive, a ghost haunting the corridors of your mind. But when you stop trying to possess the future, tomorrow becomes something astonishingly gentle. It becomes an invitation rather than an obligation, a possibility rather than a threat. You wake up in the morning not with clenched fists, but with open hands. And open hands can receive what clenched fists cannot. Now, let us explore the most delicate of all territories. Love. Love, when pure and unguarded, is the most natural expression of existence, like a flower blooming simply because it is in its nature to bloom. But the moment we say, this love is mine, we turn the flower into a plastic imitation, one that cannot wilt, cannot change, and, therefore, cannot live. You do not actually want immortal roses. You want roses that are alive. And to be alive is to blossom and decay. This is what makes love sacred. You know it will end. You feel the fragility in every touch, every shared silence, every laughter that ripples between two souls. And rather than destroying the beauty, this vulnerability creates it. A relationship in which both individuals understand they cannot own the other becomes a dance, graceful, tender, alive. But a relationship built on possession becomes a tug-of-war, in which both participants eventually grow exhausted. Love is not to people clinging to each other in fear of separation. Love is to people participating fully in a moment that will not return. Which is why the greatest act of love is always letting go. Not abandoning, not rejecting, but allowing. Allowing the other person to change. Allowing yourself to change. Allowing the relationship to breathe. What you fear losing was never yours to keep because its beauty depended on the freedom you cannot remove. Let us also look at loss itself. Humans speak of loss as if something has been stolen from them. But how can something be taken if it never belonged to you? The deepest pain of loss is the collapse of the illusion of ownership. This is why heartbreak feels like death. Because something inside you does not the relationship, not the person, but the idea that you had secured something permanent in an impermanent world. Loss is not life's cruelty. It is life's reminder. A reminder that you are living in a world made of moments, not things. A world made of dances, not statues. A world made of waves, not walls. Once you truly understand this not as a concept, but as a lived truth, you find yourself becoming extraordinarily peaceful. Not passive, not indifferent, just peaceful. Because nothing can be taken from you when you no longer insist that anything is yours. And in this freedom, you begin to see something astonishing. You have never truly lost anything. You have only experienced its presence for a time, and that is enough. More than enough. For life was never about keeping, life was always about experiencing.